The storm raged without mercy that night, the kind of storm that made even the bravest drivers grip the wheel tighter, praying they would make it home. Alex Carter, a single father with calloused hands and weary eyes, drove his old pickup down the deserted country road, the wipers struggling against the sheets of rain. His daughter Emma, only 5 years old, was bundled up in her car seat, her soft breathing a comforting sound amidst the howling wind. For Alex, every choice, every extra hour at the mechanic's garage, every sacrifice, was for her, his little girl who had lost her mother too soon and now depended on him for everything. As the truck rounded a bend, Alex's headlights fell on twisted metal glinting against the storm, a black luxury car crumpled around a tree, smoke hissing from under its hood. His heart lurched. Without hesitation, he pulled over, whispered to Emma to stay put, and plunged into the rain. The wreckage groaned as he wrenched open the door, his muscles straining against the weight. Inside, a man in a torn suit lay slumped, unconscious, blood trickling down his temple. Alex didn't recognize him, nor did it matter. In that moment, he was just a life on the edge of being lost. With raw determination, Alex dragged him free, the acrid smell of fire growing stronger as sparks flew from the hood. He hoisted the stranger over his shoulder, his back screaming in protest, and carried him to the truck. Emma stirred but said nothing as her father laid the man across the back seat, slammed the door shut, and sped through the rain-soaked roads toward the hospital. Every second felt like a race against death. When he screeched into the emergency entrance, Alex leapt out, yelling for help. Nurses rushed forward, doctors wheeled the man inside, and in the chaos, a security guard asked for his name. Alex shook his head. Doesn't matter. Just save him. Without another word, he returned to his truck, glanced once at Emma's sleepy eyes, and drove away into the night, leaving behind nothing but questions, and the memory of a rescuer who disappeared without a trace. Daniel Pierce awoke to the sterile brightness of hospital lights, his body aching, his head bandaged, and his mind foggy with fragments of the night before. The last thing he remembered was the screech of tires, the violent crash, and then, nothing, except for the vague impression of strong arms pulling him out, a steady voice urging him to hold on, and, oddly, the sight of a small pink blanket in the corner of his blurred vision. As the reality of survival sank in, the doctors explained that he had been in a terrible accident and was lucky to be alive, but their words carried a haunting detail: he had been brought in by a man who refused to give his name, who left as quickly as he arrived. For Daniel, who was not only a survivor but a billionaire CEO known for controlling every detail of his life and business, the idea of being indebted to an anonymous stranger gnawed at him. He demanded answers from the hospital staff, but all they could give him was a vague description. The man had tired eyes, grease-stained hands, and carried himself with the quiet determination of someone used to struggle. Daniel's investigators were summoned immediately, ordered to comb through every possible lead, yet strangely, no records existed, no CCTV footage, no paperwork, no trace of this mysterious rescuer. Daniel's frustration grew with each passing day, because gratitude, for him, was not a casual thing. It was a debt he needed to pay, a balance he could not leave unsettled. Alone in his penthouse weeks later, he found himself staring out at the sprawling city, the skyline glittering beneath him, yet feeling emptier than he ever had. Somewhere out there, beyond his wealth and power, was a man who had risked his life for him without asking for anything in return, a man who had simply vanished. For perhaps the first time in his life, Daniel Pierce admitted he was not in control. And with quiet resolve, he vowed he would not rest until he found the man who had saved him. Life had returned to its steady rhythm for Alex Carter, though steady meant long hours fixing cars at the local garage, hurried grocery runs, and evenings spent helping Emma with her drawings before tucking her into bed. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest, and it was theirs. Alex had almost forgotten the stormy night and the stranger he had pulled from the wreck, chalking it up to one more chapter in a life where doing the right thing mattered more than recognition. But fate had other plans. One afternoon, as Alex tightened the bolts under a rusty old pickup, Emma came running, tugging at his sleeve with wide eyes. "Daddy, there's a big car outside," she whispered, her small voice tinged with awe. Wiping grease from his hands, Alex stepped outside to see a sleek black sedan gleaming under the sun, a sharp contrast to the dusty yard. From it stepped a tall man in a tailored suit, his presence commanding, his eyes searching. Recognition struck instantly, the stranger from the wreck, alive and whole. Daniel Pierce. He approached with a mixture of gratitude and intensity, his gaze locking onto Alex. "It's you," Daniel said, his voice firm but laced with something deeper. "You're the one who saved me." Alex froze, instinctively uncomfortable, and muttered, "Didn't do it for thanks. Anyone would've." But Daniel shook his head, disbelief etched on his face. "No. Not anyone. You risked your life and walked away without a word." "Why?" Alex glanced at Emma, who clung shyly to his leg, and sighed. "Because I've got her to raise. I didn't want attention, didn't want anything in return. Just wanted you to live." Daniel's eyes softened as he looked at Emma, then back at Alex, a man he suddenly realized carried more strength than most boardrooms full of executives. "I owe you more than I can ever repay," Daniel said earnestly, but Alex simply shook his head, already eager to retreat back into his quiet life. Yet both men knew, in that single collision of worlds, the billionaire and the single dad, the story was only just beginning. Daniel Pierce was not a man who easily let go of obligations, and though Alex Carter had insisted he wanted nothing in return, Daniel's gratitude only grew stronger each time he visited the small town and saw the modest life Alex struggled to provide for his daughter. At first, Alex resisted the intrusion, brushing off Daniel's offers of help, convinced that accepting anything from a billionaire would somehow chip away at his pride. But Daniel was relentless in his quiet persistence, showing up with books for Emma, tools for Alex's work, and conversations that slowly chipped through the walls the mechanic had built around himself. One evening, as the sun set in streaks of gold behind the garage, Daniel stood before Alex and said with rare sincerity, "You gave me my life back. Let me give you something for yours. This isn't charity, it's a chance." Alex frowned, his instinct to reject rising again, until he caught Emma's hopeful eyes fixed on the drawing she had made of a shop with their name above the door. The idea of giving her more than long hours and second-hand clothes, of building something lasting, gnawed at his resistance. Slowly, he nodded, his voice quiet. "What exactly are you offering?" Daniel's smile was gentle. "A partnership. Your own auto repair business. A future you can hand to her." Months later, the town gathered for the grand opening of Carter's Auto and Repair, a brand new shop with shining equipment and a sign Emma helped hang with pride. Alex stood in front of it, still disbelieving that such a thing could belong to him, while Daniel watched from the crowd, his expression not one of repayment but of friendship. When Alex finally approached him, he muttered, "Guess you've paid your debt." But Daniel shook his head firmly. "No, Alex. This was never about a debt. This was about finding something I didn't know I needed, a friend, and maybe a family." For the first time in years, Alex felt the heavy weight of struggle lift, replaced by something he had nearly forgotten, hope for the future.